next guest is my lovely mother, Amanda Palmer. Good morning, Mum.
Good morning.
How are you this fine morning?
Oh, it's an early start for me.
Oh, how much earlier? What time are you normally getting up these days?
You know how you're stirring me up already. We're on radio. I'll tell everyone how much you're stirring me up already.
No, I'm not. I'm here for you. We're here to hear your story. I'm here to hear your story.
Okay.
Anyway, so you're up early. That's good. I'm very thankful.
My voice is very delayed.
Hey?
It's very delayed.
It's because you might have your phone. It's okay. We can hear you very well.
Okay.
We can hear you very well.
Right.
How are you feeling this morning? What's your day like in a give it a rating already?
A rating today, like just me waking up,
Yeah, where are you at?
about 2 out of 10.
And why so? Give us a dig around. What's going on?
Well, oh, jeepers. I don't know what to say, what not to say.
Just don't swear.
You know I don't swear.
We'll get into it. Let's go.
Well, pretty much in the mornings, I find it a little bit hard because I take a fair few medications. So in the morning is probably not my best time. So it takes me a little while to get up and get going. Not like a lot of other people, they just get up and get going, but I just can't do that. So it takes me an hour or two to sort of, feel like it's morning and have a shower and sit outside and have a coffee and take more tablets and wait for them to kick in a little bit, and then I have brekkie and stuff like that, and then I work out the day. I pretty much don't work out the day because it depends on how I am, pretty much.
Was life always like that for you? Growing up as a kid, were you a good sleeper, and did you wake up fresh? Can you remember days where you do you have any memories of being a kid where you woke up and didn't have a battle? I mean, did you have any part of your childhood that was just beautiful and young and free? And what's some early childhood memories that were fun being a kid?
I was always a loner, never had friends when I was a kid. And I don't know why. Maybe it was a lot to do with me. I was a little bit shy, and I didn't talk a real lot when I was young. And, I always remember going for walks and going out to the bush on my own and a lot of... I remember... do you want to hear something funny?
Sure do.
Every Friday, my mother used to give us chocolates. And so every Friday we had fish and chips and chocolates, one little square of chocolate. And it was the most excitingest day, but not all the time, but sometimes. And I always remember the name of them, and I remember stealing some money out of my mum's purse.
We've all done it.
Hey?
We've all been there.
Oh, really? You haven't done that, have you? Oh, you naughty boy. Anyway, so I went down to the milk bar and got a whole box of the chocolates that my mum used to give me. And before I know it, I was just running to the toilets with number 2, and I ended up going home with no underpants on because they were so disgustingly dirty, and I was running to the toilet, just squatting anywhere. So I don't know if it was funny. It was very painful. I still remember it to this day. I remember the milk bar and everything in Noble Park. I used to live. Anyway, the name of the chocolates were called Laxettes. So if anyone knows what Laxettes are, and I ate the whole box. They were really nice going down.
I bet you were.
I never knew what my mum was doing on a Friday, so
I'm surprised. I'm surprised the milk bar owner went, "Yeah, no worries." How old were you?
Oh, probably about 6.
6-year-old coming to get a box of chocolates.
Well, in those days, it was a little milk bar, and you used to get a note from your mum or dad, and you go there and you just give them a note on a piece of paper, and then you pay for it and come home. You used to be able to buy anything then. So that was I don't know if it was a fun memory, but I just remember it really well. And my mother telling me out off because she wanted to know where my underwear was.
She didn't care about coming
Not
back with the
really.
wrong chocolate. She wanted to know where your undies were.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is that
Yeah, my mother used to send us off in the morning, to especially on the weekends. She used to lock the door on us in the mornings, and we weren't allowed her inside until the afternoon, late afternoon. And so we used to pretty much defend ourselves. So I used to go off and do what I want to do on my own. So yeah.
you grew up with how many were in your household growing up?
8 others.
Eight
8 others. Yeah, I wasn't really close to any of them when I was young. And
is that crazy to think of? Why weren't you close? What was in the way of being close? Considering 8 other brothers and sisters. I mean, it's a lot of kids. I mean, it's like a kids' party these days. But were do you remember? Were some of them older and not home, or was it always very transient? Were people in and out of your home, or you were always kind of not together? Like
I don't know what it was when we were younger. I think we all had our struggle to fight for the day, and we always had our own issues and on our own and stuff like that. So we were never close. I can't remember ever being close to my family or my brothers or sisters. And I don't know if it was even at the early age that I knew there was something wrong with me. I got and also I got burnt when I was young, which is always a not sure how I got burnt. Nobody can remember. No one was there when I got burnt. And
when you say burnt, what do you? Can you give us some context of what happened?
I can't remember. I sort of remember, but I can't remember. My mum said that I jumped over a radiator, and in those days you had nylon dressing gowns, and you can put like a tiny little spark to them, and they just take off. And that's what happened, but I can't remember a single thing. And that's what my mum said what happened. And then my father had a different story altogether, different complete story, that he came home and saw me and took me to the hospital. So, I didn't have really good parents, and I'm not really sure to this day what happened. I always wonder, if my mum had a bit to do with it, that happened to me. And I always feel that because she was a bit of a, I don't know, my family have different things of her, but I always felt like she didn't love me for some reason, and never felt loved by my mother whatsoever, and always felt like I was the last person, in the family that she did things for. So, yeah. So sometimes I think it was because my father sort of had a bit of a soft spot for me. And I remember lovely things with my dad, even though he wasn't a very present father, but every time he did come home, I always felt like, Dad's home, my dad's home. And I used to love standing on his feet, and he used to dance with me. So I remember that. And I think my mother got jealous because he had a soft spot for me. So the more he was, the more he liked me, the more my mother disliked me for some reason. I don't know. But, I look back even now with my mum, and she had a mental illness as well. This is where I got it from. Sort of, I don't know if you call it in your genes, but yeah. And I remember her going away for weeks on end, and I think that she went to places, where she had shock treatment and stuff, and then she come back always better or something. So yeah, it's a little. Some of the things are a little bit vague, because I was only young and I only remember what I remember. I'm sure my brothers and sisters have different memories, but because I was the youngest one, I was quite small as well, like I am now.
Where do you fit? Where do you fit into the? You got 9. Where do you fit into the rank? Into the age?
I think I'm about 4th from the bottom.
Yeah.
4th?
Yeah. So that's pretty. I mean, science. I shouldn't say science. Research has been long supportive of those first 6 years being such a pivotal part in what you carry into your life, even as a 30-year-old and a 20-year-old and a 50-year-old and even as a 60-year-old. But shortly after, you were getting put into a car and not at home. Have you got any memories of that? Of
When the government came and took us away.
Yeah, was that a surprise to you? What's your memories of?
I remember it really well. I remember I was in Noble Park again, and I remember my dad being there, and my dad saying, "Who wants to go on a holiday?" And I've got my hand up like, "Yay, holiday!" And anyway, these people came from the government and popped us in a car and took us to a place called a Lambie. And it's a waiting, was it a Lambie or Ballarat? Maybe Ballarat Children's Home. And we went there, and but I remember on the way I felt violently ill, and I sort of thought, I still think it was car sick. And I remember getting in and out of the car and trying to tell the people that were taking me away from my family, thinking I'm going away camping or on a holiday, and feeling violently ill. And from that day, I've always been car sick. So sometimes I always wonder, is it a psychological thing? But I never remember feeling car sick before then, ever. But they took us away and put us in an orphanage, when I was 6 years old, and pretty much stayed in an orphanage we went to Ballarat and Lambie, and then we went to Glastonbury in Geelong, which is Christian College now, and stayed there for 6 years. And the other places, I'm really not sure, maybe a year each I stayed there. So, yeah.
So you're spending, when did you leave the orphanage? When was it kind of over, that part of your life, when you were part of, an institution, heavily under-resourced back then, and probably still is today. Kids shouldn't be in institutions like that. But in the 60s and 70s, I mean, a lot of things were undiagnosed, they were unclear, they were left generalised, all these kids with all these amazing personalities that are thrown in one building to learn about life, when most kids are forming external friendships and playing sport and exploring the world and being loved. You're in this institution which has never been thought of as a good thing. How long did you spend in there?
In Glastonbury?
Yeah. Or when was your orphanage time over? How long does someone stay in the orphanages?
Well, if they don't think that you're what do you call it, worthwhile putting time into, they they don't think that you're not going to go anywhere in life, or you've got no skills of anything, they pretty much kick you out at 16. So when I turned 16, they packed my bags, and then they sent me to a place in Melbourne in a hostel. And I've never been anywhere. Like, we were very not cottonwood, but we didn't have a lot of life skills outside of the orphanage except at school. So I went to this hostel, and lo and behold, there were a lot of lesbians there and drug addicts and all these people that I've had absolutely no idea about. And this girl that was there, what can I say? She fell in love with me, and she ended up following me everywhere and waiting outside near the shower. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, she really likes me, And it's really lovely because in the orphanage, we used to shower together, and it wasn't I didn't know any better. And I know if you ask Glenda if she's watching, the very first day she came to the orphanage, I said, let's go and have a shower together. So that was Glenda's first little, memory. She'll say that, she always remembered me because I was so nice to her and we showered together. And I think that's the first time she noticed that someone had bigger boobs than her.
look out, the sheriff's in town.
I know. I didn't think I had big boobs because I just didn't know. I was so naive. I thought everyone had boobs and we're all just that. But I've distracted myself now. Where are we up to, Troy?
What you find yourself pregnant at the age of 19?
I did. I became a Christian, and I met this man named Cyril, and he was even though it's really weird. Even though I met him in the orphanage, and he was my first time I ever kissed a boy, and he showed me how to kiss. It was really gross. I hated it. He told me to open my mouth, and I thought, why on earth do you want to kiss me with your mouth open? So it was gross. I hated it, but I always remembered him because it was the first time I had some attention, regardless if it was from a boy or an adult of any type. And even then, I really felt close to him. And then anyway, time passed, and I met him again, and I had a one-night fling when I was a Christian because I just couldn't help myself, and I fell pregnant to you. And I was a churchgoer then, so I thought that I was going to get frowned upon because I was a single girl, a Christian, and whatever. But anyway, the church sort of didn't support what happened, but they supported me being a single mum, and they surrounded themselves with love for me and care for you. And, I had some good times in that church. That was the first church we ever went to, which was Clem Ridges. And there was a lot of really lovely people there that I made friends with. And Georgina today, she's listening.
She's listening.
Oh,
So is Glenda too. She just jumped on as well.
Hello, Glenda.
What was life like, Mum? You've painted a very real picture for us. You're very under-resourced. We might look at the world today and see some mums out there having kids at 19, and you look at some women and go far out, like, this kid's going to have some challenges ahead of them based on how under-resourced a human is. You're under-resourced. You've got little to no education. You've got no family to support you. You've got no money. You've just fallen pregnant at the age of 19. What was bringing up a child like in the 80s with all those, I guess, hurdles? What was? My childhood. It's weird to be saying this. My childhood was so fun. I mean, how does mums are incredible. You're incredible. Mums in general are incredible. What did you do? What did you do for food? How did you find a house? And this is about resilience, about bouncing back, keep going when you get knocked down. What did you do in the 80s with a child? How did you get by?
I look, if I look back, I was very much a person of not wanting help, because if I asked for help, I felt like I'm failing as a mother. So a lot of the time I didn't ask for help. A lot of the time people didn't know that how poor I was, how much I was living off next to nothing. But I absolutely refused to get any type of help. And I used to just live without stuff, and make sure that you had everything. You were always my first priority, and always made something and had something for you to drink or food or whatever. And I just went without coffee, and had tea because it was so cheap. So people used to come around. They say, "You got a coffee?" And I go, "No, I only got tea." And no one questioned it. They go, "Okay." And I just went without. I always brought vegetables and things to make sure you have veggies, and I just went without stuff. Went out without. I never got takeaways or anything like that. So we lived off always good food. Always put you first, and then I always paid my bills. For some reason, I paid bills first, and then I had something left over, and wasn't a lot at all. And if anybody knew, I suppose they would look and go, "Why didn't you help? Why didn't you ask?" But I didn't want to ask. I just didn't want people to think that I was a failure as a single mum. And I think some people, when I was pregnant, they thought, oh my goodness, how on earth is that person gonna bring up a baby? She can't even look after herself, let alone looking after a baby. And I don't know who it was, but someone said, you need to get rid of it, have an abortion, because you're not going to be a good mother. How you're going to look after it, how you're going to feed it, because you can't look after yourself. But as you know, I didn't do that. And I'm glad to hear that I brought you up well, it's always a nice feeling knowing that, I didn't scar you too much being a single mum. So, yeah, it was hard yakka, especially even in the discipline stuff, not having a man in the house to discipline you, and me trying to be the mother and the father, which, God never gave a mother to be both. So, but you had a lot of good role models in those days with church, a lot of lovely people, John and Joanna, they were always such a lovely role model, and you had lovely friends there, a lot of church people, and, they all loved you so much. And Sandra, Sandra was...
Did you have trust in people instantly because of perhaps, and I don't want to, perhaps because they are Christians, or was it still very hard? I mean, you've had a very broken life up until this date where you can't trust anyone, a lot of pain and trauma in the children's home, even as a 6-year-old kid, unsure about what happened with your parents. Did you trust people? You would have had to get that help finally. You would have had to go work or hand me over to another family to go, can you look after him? I just can't look after him tonight. Were you happy to hand me over? Or
Not very often.
Very hard?
Not often you got babysat, just did it because I didn't like having people look after you, I wanted, but sometimes I did. And it was usually just, the John and Joanna, they looked after you because I knew that I saw how lovely they looked after their kids. So I never, ever had a problem you going there. And other people as well, It was really weird. It was a weird time, even though I was single and struggling, and I didn't want to tell anyone I was so poor, and stuff. But I still had good times during that time, It wasn't all bad, even though, my mental health was really hard because I was very up and down, because I had bipolar, and I always used to wonder. I thought, being a Christian, I used to think that I was always evil because I used to have these terrible lows and I wanted to kill myself, And, I remember once when, I was married and I was just one of my lowest. And I remember sending you and David off to go camping when I had planned it all for weeks beforehand. And I remember feeling so contented for those weeks because I thought, I'm going to kill myself. And I remember sending you off camping, and I remember sitting in front of that heater and looking at all these tablets that I had in my hand. And I thought, it doesn't matter, I'm a horrible mum and a horrible wife, and it's just horrible. I'm just a horrible person. And I thought it would be so easy just to take some tablets and fall asleep on my bed and stuff. But the weird thing is I had a dog at that time called Ben. And I remember looking down at her sitting in front of the heater with these big bottle of tablets. And I looked at her and I don't know what came over me, but this voice turned around and said, who on earth is going to look after your dog the way that you look after your dog? No one will love the dog like you love the dog. And so I looked at her and she looked at me, and it was almost like she knew. She knew that something was going on. So I put the tablets down the toilet and I didn't do it. So, yeah. You all right?
Yeah, it's just hard. I've heard this before, and it's just really hard. It's really hard to hear that you went through that, and in a time where you needed someone the most. It felt like nothing was there, and it I'm thankful that you're on this side of that decision and not the other side, and I think about people that have lost people to the other way. It can be a matter of a dog. It's just a seesaw moment, and let's move forward, Mum. I want to. I mean, you found love again. You got married. You had a great friendship. You had a few, both of those, fall away in probably what seems like far out. Here we go again. When's my life gonna just stop taking a hit? But I want to kind of fast forward because we haven't got a heap of time, which we can always have you back.
Gone.
No, what's that?
Has it already gone? I'm enjoying it.
I know it's good. We got a bit more time. I just wanted I want to really talk about you find yourself living by yourself, which is something that you seem to find the best fit. I wouldn't say you love it all the time. I'm sure everyone wants someone, a companion or someone to share things with, but you've always had good dogs. I've hopefully never left your side, but you've had good friends around, and some of them are on the chat right now. When did you start realising that you needed to stop finding yourself in situations that were breaking and start looking at yourself? When did you start realise? Did you get diagnosed first? And let's talk a little bit about some of the things, like how did you fall into art therapy and become a ridiculous artist?
I think one time that I just stayed home. I just stayed home for weeks on end. I think it was 8 months I stayed home, and I lost my job and stuff like that, and got into trouble a few times at work because I got involved with the wrong people at work. So I got suspended, and it was all to do with my mental illness and stuff. And I remember I stayed home, and a girl came over and said, "Here's a piece of paper and a pen or a drawing pencil." She goes, "Put whatever you feel on a piece of paper." And I said, "I'm a shocking drawer." And they go, "Doesn't matter, just draw." So I started drawing, and my first things were stick figures and and then the typical flower and the typical square house that you draw. But then I realized that I really start loving it. And then I sat for hours. Sometimes I got up because I couldn't sleep because I was on so many highs. And but then I just knew there was something wrong with me. And I sort of thought, there's just something wrong, more than just moodiness, or evilness. I thought I was always evil. And, I used to have such highs. If anyone knows bipolar, the highs are amazing, and I miss them. I miss my highs because you just feel so great. You feel invincible. I remember going to the beach thinking that I could walk on water. So I tried it and I just couldn't. But the highs are just so wonderful. And my house was spotless. And, I used to go to gym and twice a day, and used to go partying and work, and pretty much slept for 2 hours, But, yeah. Anyway, what was the question again?
So how did you? I mean, so
then
you touched on.
I had a really bad low where I stayed inside for eight months, and I just went to my doctor and bawling my eyes out. What a stupid doctor he was. He gave me the wrong tablets, which made me worse. And then he booked an appointment to go to the psychiatrist to get assessed. And the appointment was for 3 months. And I remember saying to him, "I won't live that long. You need to put me in earlier." And he goes, "Well, you have to be on the waiting list." So anyway, I survived those 3 months, and I went to this doctor, and then I had to wait another 2 months after that. And I said the same thing to him. I said, "I'm not going to last that long. I just won't last 2 months." And he apologized. I don't know, what, the system's crazy. But anyway, I survived, and I went back with his the pyramid with the big boss, and they sat me down and they said, yeah, you got bipolar and you got borderline personality disorder, and you're on the wrong tablets. And I'm sitting there just hysterical, crying and screaming for help. I'm saying, please, please help me, please help me. I'm just hysterical. And she gave me a cuddle and said, everything's going to be okay. You're just on the wrong tablet. So then I went off them for a little while because you can't just go on the others straight away. So then she put me on this miracle tablet. And I remember about 3 days after I took it, I thought, oh, this feels all right. I started feeling normal in my head. It wasn't racing as much. And so anyway, we worked out so I'm on the maximum you can have. But at the end of the day, it stops me feeling a lot of things. My emotions, it numbs that area, which, is a big part of life. But then, what do you call it? The other side is that it stops my brain from having suicidal thoughts and feeling like life is just miserable. So
I'll tell you one moment that was one of the highlights of everyone around you. It was to see not only your artwork, that first drawing that you did, become something so much bigger. Tell me about this moment here.
That was such a wonderful day. I remember telling somebody.
You're in an art gallery fair. Everyone if you can't listen to this one, if you can't see what's going on, Mum's drawing is absolutely phenomenal. It's an absolute, it's I don't want to compare. It's one of those things where you go, how the heck did that come out of your hands? Even though we've all got a creative bone in our body, yours, Mum is dyslexic or can't spell or write very well, naturally, because you didn't spend much time in school. You are one of the most creative, beautiful minds on the planet, and you've come out with these drawings and led to this moment where you had an art exhibition. I've never seen you so much more happier than this because, and I explain this to people, it was the first time that you were happy with something that you did other than having a baby, probably.
Yeah.
But, something that you did without the help of others. Art is an expression of yourself, and people were around you and surrounding you with love and adoration. Tell us what it felt like at the age of, how long was it? 8, 9 years ago? I don't give you your age, but in this part of your life to be able to taste something like that and feel something like that, what was it like?
It was really weird how that came about. I had a mental health nurse that I used to go to, and I brought her one of my pictures in to show her, and she sat there just staring at it like, as I, did you do this? And I go, yeah. Are you sure you did this? And I go, yeah. It's all by hand. And they go, you didn't copy it? And I go, no. So it wasn't something that you copied and coloured in? I go, no, I did it all by hand. And she just happened to have a boyfriend that was who had a gallery in Finesford, and one thing led to the other, and he says, would you like to show your work? And I said, okay.
Just have a look at your screens now, peeps. This is what some of Mum's artwork that she was doing as art therapy. They're called mandalas, is that right?
I do. I love them. I don't know what it is, but I think I loved it because it all looked organised. And I loved it because it made me feel organised. Some people do these abstracty stuff that looks just a great big mess, and those things I look at and I feel stressed. But when I look at this and when I do something like this, it makes me feel grounded.
So they're all dots.
Oh, yeah, all dots, dot, dot, dot. I loved it. I don't know why I stopped, but I love it. I feel like I want to get going again and do it again.
Art therapy, there's things that I'm so glad that you've got something. It's really, it's healthy to hear, and I'm sure everyone understands the, and we've got a physio that listens in, Fizz, but everyone knows about the problems with medicated lives, even though that is sometimes one of the seemingly only options just to get you through the day. It's so beautiful to see that this is unrelated to anything unhealthy other than maybe the smell of ink around you, but it is creative. It's you expressing yourself. Tell us how queen therapy fits into part of your therapy. And are you still hanging out with Mr. Ed?
Stop it.
Tell us about equine therapy. What is it?
I was just, I was just looking for anything and everything to help me, and anything to help my life better, and I was just willing to try anything. I really loved meditation and mindfulness. I don't do it anymore because I can't find a place to go to do it. I had a really good, because I've got NDIS, and I went to this art therapy. I used to do art on a Tuesday and woodwork on a Wednesday. And I just loved it, absolutely loved it. But that all sort of caved through. And anyway, so I had to look for other alternatives. And someone said, try some horse therapy. And I'm frightened to death of horses just coming near me. But anyway, by the end of this therapy, the lady was really, really lovely. And she had 6 horses that she saved. And the horses somehow rather knew there's something going on. And I remember the first time I went there, the horses, I sat there with her in the middle of the paddock, frightened to death. But then the horses gathered around me, like so close, I could feel their energy, feel their breath on me. And she turned around and she goes, what do you think they're doing right now? And I looked around thinking, these are just monstrous animals. They're just so amazingly huge. And I said, I feel like they're protecting me, letting me know that everything's going to be okay. And you can feel that. It was amazing. And I stayed there for ages. And then one other horse started butting me and just about butted me off the chair. It was like as though it was saying, g'day, come on, g'day, come on, g'day.
I can't help but think about that Simpsons episode. And if there's any Simpsons fans out here, it's
Stop it, I'm being very dramatic here and you're talking about Simpsons.
Stampy and the elephants. They say the elephant's just showing that he likes you, and then it switches to Homer headbutting his wife, Mark, going,
oh, no way.
Mum, you've got so many positive outlooks on really traumatic situations, and I'm sure we can all read between the lines here. I mean, we're not silly. These things that you talk about that you've faced, I mean, they're difficult times, and you've bounced back. It is nothing short of resilient. Nothing more. You talk about your fear of horses. Your fear of flying was once upon a time the most scariest thing on the planet. You managed to get yourself to
Bali. I remember that day.
You've travelled to Bali. You've gone overseas. What did it feel like overcoming? You've overcome so many things. You've overcome some things that none of us ever want to see, or ever want to go through, and especially we don't want our kids to go through. What does it take? How do you put one foot forward when there's been so much hurt and pain and mistrust and things haven't gone well? You've had a very tough life compared to what most of us have had, bar a couple. How are you getting on planes and going to Bali? And how do you flick the switch and go, stuff it, I'm having a go? And it's been a credit to you your last 10 years, ever since doing drawing, ever since going overseas. You're trying new things. Where do you get it from?
Yeah, I don't know. I just I sort of think, well, what can happen? If I go overseas, the plane might crash. I might go over to Bali and get, what do you call it? Someone might steal me for ransom. They're all the things that went through my head. Or I might get Bali and be sick the whole time I'm there. But I just thought, darn it, I'm going. Life, my whole life I've not done things out of fear, or out of not knowing, or my head doing somersaults about the negativity. If you know bipolar people, it's just so negative stuff in my head, and it's almost like you got to push past that, what will happen, and just like, oh, darn it, I'm just going to go, and you came with me, I knew you were going to look after me and stuff, and I knew that you'd protect me, I suppose, knowing that I went with you, and because you've been to Bali a few times, and you're going to show me the ropes and what to eat, and my goodness, the massages that I miss so much. Oh, man.
There was nothing more beautiful, Mum, than it was a real pinnacle moment, and I'm sure we're going to get. It was big, and I know you just as good as anyone. That was such a massive day, trip, everything, and to hear that you came back the other side going, I want to go again. It's such a positive reaction, and we've talked. I've heard it recently said before that some people can't dream because they don't have the option to dream because they're too busy surviving, and I feel like that is you. It once was you. You're no longer. You're sick of surviving, and you've gotten to this point of life going, you're going to start dreaming and doing things that make you happy, and that and stop kind of looking at yourself like, this is who you are. This is who you are. Stop trying to be someone that you're not. This is who you are. It's a credit to you, and not be embarrassed about it. And I know it's a really big thing to come on air and talk about things, and I hope today's been a beautiful thing. For you to be able to talk about. You've never talked about anything like this in a public forum. Someone's asked a question, Mum. Is there something you wish? There's a fair few comments, and you'll have to. I'll try and copy and paste them. But there's so many people, and Jano pointed it out. This is the most listeners by far that we've ever had on Really Good Radio in our short 8 months. We're up to 58 before, which is just epic.
Feeling the love, aren't I? We're going to have a lovely day today.
Someone's asked you, and they're a foster parent.
Okay.
Is there something you wish the foster carers or other carers knew or did that could have made life better for you? And what advice would you give to foster carers today?
I think the one thing that the carers that were looking after us, most of them, they weren't there for the right reason. It was a job to them. So I think even with foster carers, you've got to be loving and caring towards them, because you want to show them that life is not all bad, and that you let them know that you love them regardless. Even, a lot of kids, they've got a lot of bad behaviours, and I had a lot of bad behaviours, and I was punished all the time for them, or I remember I did something and they punished me by cutting my hair off. And I remember how bad that felt. And it was just the wrong type of punishment. I look back and I think, you've got to work out the reason why that kid did something like that, and sometimes love and sort of talking to them and showing them that, regardless of doing something wrong, that you still care about them. I think one thing that I missed was the love part in my life, and knowing that regardless of what I did, they still loved me. They just loved me. That's what I wanted, and I just never got that when I was a kid, and it's really weird. Even though I'm an adult, I still feel that a little bit, which is really weird. But it's something that I don't know if it might still be there all the time, that I feel unlovable. So, but that's just my life. But if I had different people looking after me and feeling loved, I might have turned out different. And love is, they say it's unconditional, but there's always conditions on it. So just because But I had a lot of, thank goodness that I became a Christian, because there were so many good people around, so many good, loving, caring people. And, And that was a big thing as well. There wasn't just one person. Really important to get a big group around them so you're not tired all the time of doing it all by yourself. And there's so many things that you can do for them to make them feel loved. Sports and sitting there yelling your head off on the side. Kids love it. I know you loved it, seeing me there on the side screaming my head off. That mum's screaming the head off, and that's sort of a love too. Even though I'm not giving you love, but I'm showing it a different way to let you know I'm so proud of you. And I think that's the thing too. The kids want you to feel proud of them, that they're doing okay. And
I definitely remember. You're spot on. Being present, and
present at all things.
Just being there, and your kids remember. I remember it, and kids would know. There's that. When kids are like, "Mum, look, just watch me do the trick shot. Watch me do the trick shot." There's something in that. You got to be present, but you also got to be paying attention, and it's hard. Yeah. But there's nothing more loving and supportive than knowing that your mum or dad are watching you while
or foster parents.
Or foster parents. Anyone.
It doesn't matter who it is,
That someone's
even attention. When I was growing, even in the church days when I did things, and they always came up and said, "You did really good today." And they weren't my relatives or anything, but, even that, you sort of felt loved because they, let you know that you did a great job. And even though you felt like you didn't, but because they said you did, so I think, okay.
Mum, we've got to go. We've gone for a 50-minute interview, and if anyone wants to hang out with my mum and listen to her, she's always welcome. She's always got a spare seat on her balcony for a cup of tea. She's now can afford coffee, which is just huge.
I can afford coffee and biggies now.
It's all coffee and biggies, and you can hang out with her dogs and sit there with her lovely fire. Obviously, when COVID helps, but stops. Mum, I love you incredibly much, and I cannot sometimes understand your life and who you are, and they don't match sometimes. You're an incredible pillar of resilience, and I really appreciate your time coming onto air and being public about your life. It's really inspiring. The chat line's gone off. I'm going to play you a song, which if you said, okay, Google, play something, what would it be at your home?